Hello, my dear friends. Lately, I've been hearing from some people, the ones I didn't expect to hear this from before, that the SBU are really good. They catch spies in the lake. I hear from some people who express their trust in God publicly that the SBU is now cleansing the church. It's when they come to these poor priests. I'm not against any such visits, but I believe it was possible to come to such crafty dudes from the church without a war. And when they come to the priests on the ground and I see this decoration after which someone tells they are FSB spies, you, the ones who support this trash, are real scum. They arrested another spy. Look, the Security Service of Ukraine has reported on this. Let's read it. The SBU counterintelligence exposed another FSB agent as a result of a multi-stage Special Forces raid in the Kiev region. A resident of Bila Tserkva, who was recruited by a sworn officer of the Russian Special Services in December last year, turned out to be that malicious person. After providing written consent to cooperate with the enemy, his colleague received the shadow cover name and a task to conduct intelligence and subversive activities against Ukraine. On the instructions of the FSB, he traveled around the area and secretly gathered intelligence about the Defense Forces unit's location in the region. First of all, the Russian agent tried to find the management headquarters, warehouses with artillery weapons of the armed forces of Ukraine. In addition, he gave the aggressor the coordinates of local critical infrastructure facilities, including power-generating enterprises. Of course, it couldn't be viewed on Google Maps. According to the investigation, the traitor mentioned communication with the FSB through an anonymous Telegram channel. It was there that he sent the intelligence he gathered. It was established that in the future this malicious person had to create an extensive agent network for greater coverage of the region. During the searches, law enforcement officers seized mobile phones with evidence of conspiracy correspondence. They also found a Russian passport and pro-Kremlin symbols at the person's involved house. He faces 15 years under Part 2 of the article High Treason Committed Under Martial Law. My dear friends, it's very important for you to understand what he is accused of. He is accused of photographing military facilities and reporting them via the Telegram channel to permanent FSB officers. The honorary tale-teller of Ukraine, who's also an advisor to the Interior Minister Geraschenko, said the same thing, only he also has a photo where this man's wearing his envelope cap. The point is that the SBU representatives were embarrassed after they published the post, that they had caught a spy wearing a Soviet envelope cap as in a joke, and they removed it. Let's take a look at these photos. Here this poor guy is standing with his hands behind his back. Here they come into the room. The room is very poorly finished. It's clear that the person is poor. They show a Russian passport and a note of hand. I would ask you to pay special attention to this note of hand. I, full name, give my consent. Why, by the way, did they close the name if we know who it is? I agree to voluntarily provide my assistance to the bodies of the FSB of the Russian Federation to keep under wraps the information and the forms and methods of work that have become known to me during the cooperation process. In order to maintain secrecy, I will use the shadow cover name December 15. And he keeps that note of hand at home. As I understand it, he signed a note of hand and gave it to himself. No one thinks about it now, and they didn't really think about it before. But now they definitely don't think about it. Let's look what's next. Of course, like a real spy, he has flags scattered everywhere. The flag was probably given to him by the FSB. And St. George ribbons, all Russian spies have them at home. There's even a red flag with a hammer and sickle. I assume that the pigs carry this set with them. They plant it to everyone, both priests and all spies. Every spy must have a set of St. George ribbons. Let's now look at the secret correspondence on Telegram. Here it is. First, of course, you pay attention to its name. What is the best cover name for a secret FSB officer? Of course, Zov. The next screen I marked is Ukrainian military's accommodation. We pay attention to one tick. It means that all the information provided by this important spy since December 27th has not even been viewed, and the correspondence is one-sided. He sent it to someone with a Zov cover name. I think he sent it to the SBU officers, because they like creating such accounts, provoking someone to commit a crime. something that's forbidden all over the world, and then telling that they caught a spy. Here's that very photo, already deleted by the SBU, but it still can be found on the internet. This video was also filmed by the SBU officers. They're marking the detainee and put an envelope cap on him. He's wearing a Soviet soldier's fore and aft cap, so he works for the FSB. Now I suggest you look at some photos, so that you are aware it's a selfie. That is, this person got a selfie, and it may seem to you that something is wrong here. Quality is kind of bad. I didn't worsen the photo's quality. It's original. I'll explain to you what's the point. It's a selfie. A person doesn't think it's reprehensible to get selfies like that. Next, the child. Also, you see the photos are of terrifying quality. They're out of focus. Here's a woman with a child. Everything is very out of focus. Here the train is going. The photos are extremely low quality, however. These photos of such a quality were posted by a Bila Tsikva resident in the Odnoklasniki social network. You've probably already guessed it. This is the person who was detained by the SBU. He posts such photos, but why? Why do they seem to him thoroughly acceptable for publication? The point is that he has trouble seeing, but not only this. Look at the document with diacrisis issued to Sergei Titov, who was born in Norilsk in 1979. By the way, I forgot to clarify, he possesses Russian nationality because he was born in Russia in 1979. But when he was 2, his parents moved to the territory of Ukraine, and later in 2003 he obtained his Russian passport. There's nothing surprising here. We read on because it's a diacrisis. Sergei Titov. The point is that Sergei Titov was born by a woman who had huge issues with obesity, intoxication, and other things. When he was a week old, he was prescribed artificial feeding, and during the first year of life he grew and developed normally, but then problems occurred. He had strabismus. In 1980, in a Kiev hospital, he was diagnosed with a number of diseases regarding vision. The surgical operation was carried out because the recession of the internal muscles of both eyes began. But after that, the situation didn't improve. The atrophy of the optic nerves of both eyes began. At the age of 2.5, he was examined by a neurologist and a psychiatrist. Unfortunately, they came to the conclusion that the patient had a mental illness. He was found to be quarrelsome in the children's team. The diacrisis, the consequences of pregnancy toxicosis and birth trauma hyperdynamic syndrome. In 1985, he was examined again, and the doctors concluded that unfortunately the atrophy of the optic nerves continued. Mental illness is also clearly seen at the present time. He's worried about behavioral disorders. It's impossible for him to restrain himself, periodic apathy attacks, detachment from the world. According to the child, something closes his eyes. He was repeatedly treated at the regional hospital. The doctors advised the family to go for treatment outside the region. Kiev hospitals could not cope with this. He is disabled. Sergei Nikolaevich Titov is registered as a person who has chronic mental illness, disabled person of Group 2 because of poor sight. SBU, everyone who has the relation to it praises them, everyone who speaks positively about them. These are just people without shame, honor, and conscience. These are dishonest people. These are people who don't even have a sliver of compassion for ill people. What are they doing? It's absolutely confirmed information. They find mentally ill people in the regions, apply pressure on them, and file criminal cases for statistics. Of course, during the interrogation, they can just step on the fingers of such a mentally ill person and they will write anything. In addition, in this case, the SBU outdid themselves. They passed off a person who sees poorly, who has colossal vision problems, as a person who had to photograph important strategic facilities and report this to the FSB. I will, of course, translate this video. I will try to spread it as much as possible. But the trick is that until we, citizens of Ukraine, judicious Ukrainians, pay attention to what the SBU is doing, the service that was the first to flee when Russian troops approached, which abandoned top-secret archives in many cities, due to which the Russians revealed almost the entire network of intelligence services on the territory of Ukraine and in the border territories. They just don't tell you about it and what happened to those agents. This service files criminal cases out of nothing. They have already crossed many possible lines. I appeal to everyone who supports them. Sorry, but you're a scoundrel.